The skills part of this summit has a big focus on not just getting people in from overseas, but also training up Australians in what can be very well-paying jobs. So how are we going at that? Remember as well, STEM, science jobs and so on, there's been a lot of talk of them over the past few years. So don't we already have a focus on this, and is it working? Joining me live is Australia's Chief Scientist, Dr. Cathy Foley. Thanks very much for your time. As I said, I remember not long ago, STEM became sort of the buzzword. We were throwing resources at it and trying to encourage kids to keep studying through university. So is that working?
I'm afraid we're not there yet. We've got the great opportunity because we have so much ambition in Australia to make sure that we become a knowledge-based economy, turning our resources into things which are going to create greater prosperity. For example, instead of shipping minerals off overseas, we process them here and add lots of value, same in agriculture, not to mention in IT, critical technologies, quantum, space and so on. Yet we haven't actually got that translated to the point where our young kids and their parents and their teachers know that that's there. So we're on a journey, but we're not there yet.
It strikes me that a key moment is someone about 14, 15 years of age when you start to get more choice in your subjects, because once you choose a certain type of subject, and if they all end up being sort of humanities, which for better or for worse I picked most of, it's hard to then go on and do university degrees that have a STEM focus. So what is it at that age that isn't getting enough kids into those sort of STEM subjects? How do you get them excited by that rather than, as a lot of surveys suggest, them wanting to be an influencer?
Yeah, that's the problem, isn't it? We've got too many kids who want to be influencers and not engineers or physicists in my case. Look, I think it's a really complex problem. If it was a silver bullet, we would have done that. And look, I think the first thing is a recognition that this is important. We've had governments, and including the current government, who see this as a real priority. And I think there's a lot of things along the way. The first is not understanding what the STEM career pathways are. So, and we mean by STEM science, technology, engineering and maths. And that means that they need to understand, if I'm going to do something which doesn't necessarily have a clear job in the future, that it's worth taking that risk and doing it, because there is no risk. We cannot get enough people with the STEM capabilities into the jobs that there are so many there for the taking. So what do? Well, I think the first thing is making sure that we make it clear that we actually have enough teachers. We know that there's a teacher shortage, and that also we get that enthusiasm and recognition. That's shown to be something that's really important. School culture, information about where the opportunities are. And I guess the other is too, we've at the moment got things where this idea that you can do anything in the last years of high school and still do any career, and I think that's probably a bit naive, and we need to start thinking about having student success, not school success. So we're looking at making sure kids are doing the right subjects that lead to the opportunities.
You actually say in a recent bit of media it starts at kindy, apparently, which sort of got my attention with a couple of young ones. So how does it start? I mean, I kind of assume every really young kid loves science at the basic element of they'll look at sunshine and you'll, put a plant in the ground and that sort of thing. So is it just getting them interested?
It's not just getting them interested. I'm still a Joey Scout leader with 6- and 7-year-olds, and they love science. They can't get enough of it. But something happens as they go their way through. One of the things, though, is probably not good in the early stages of school is we tend to gender different directions. So girls like biology, boys like sort of physics and engineering. And we know that that's not necessarily, well, we know for sure that it's not going to work for us, because it doesn't matter who you are, where you come from, what your background is. If you've got a passion and an interest and a capability, you can do a whole range of different STEM subjects. And what we're seeing is too often we're getting girls to think in one way and boys in another. And so that's the first problem in primary school. I think the other is that we know that having basically numerical literacy, so being able to do enough maths as well as science, is critical. And I think we too often see kids getting this idea that maths is too hard, not for them, and so that gives them well, it doesn't position them in where they need to be in high school. And then, of course, I think, when we go into high school, we're seeing, all those things of puberty take over, and adolescents just get to a point where maybe they start focusing on things where they don't see where it's relevant to them. So this is something we need to work on, and it's something which we don't know what the answers are, and we're trying really hard to figure out what they are.
Yeah, I know with maths, I mean, so often people sort of say, I can do that with a calculator, why do I need to do it? And other types of maths, sometimes it's just that point where suddenly you get that algebraic equation, and then it's wow, I can do this. If you don't persevere to that point, you never know. I want to ask you quickly about quantum technology. Really simple here. Just remember that I had the humanities stream. How do you describe it, and why is it going to be so important in Australia?
Well, quantum is the next big revolution. Computers, digital, which came across and as touching every one of us. We've probably all got it, wearing it on our watches because they're all mini computers now. To, just even talking to you now is because of the first quantum revolution, which was based on transistors and lasers. Now we're getting to the point where, because of nanotechnology, we can actually get to be able to control other laws of physics, which means that we can turn them into things which we couldn't do before and allow us to realise opportunities that will allow us to have better sensing, cyber and quantum cyber communications, which means they're not able to be broken into, through to being able to do computations with computers that we just cannot do now. And it's going to touch everyone's life, because it's going to be the thing that will be the transition into being able to do better optimisation, being able to design new drugs, being able to have secure communications, all the sorts of things which are going to be critical into the future. And we can do that just because over time we've been able to do things at a smaller and smaller scale and allow us to control the states of matter, so that we can pull out those properties and use them to our benefit.
All right, well, you've got my mind slightly blown there. There's a good advertisement for the kids, though. Stick with your STEM and get into the jobs of the future. Thank you very much for your time today, Dr. Cathy Foley.
Thanks, Tom.